Hello guys and welcome to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today we will be talking about the Celta Vigo game today, and it's going to be a very interesting game. You know, over the last few games Real Madrid have struggled quite a bit, and so we face the challenge of 17th place Celta Vigo, and you know, a manager that we're obviously all familiar with, Rafa Benitez, and it's going to be an interesting game because if we start with Celta, in previous years we've always talked about Celta. Celta are obviously a mainstay in La Liga over the last few years, but they are in danger of relegation this year. But from what I've seen of Celta this year, which I've seen quite a few games of Celta, and I've watched quite a few of their highlights as well. I don't think Celta are actually that bad. They're not 17th place bad. They're not that bad, and it's been quite interesting to see how Celta almost have just they've had everything go against them. In terms of their conceding, they're not the worst team in La Liga by any stretch of the means in terms of their defense, and in terms of their attack, they just can't convert their chances. They've got guys like Jürgen Strand Larsen who's played a good year, but he hasn't exactly lit the world on fire. Same with Iago Aspas, someone who we're obviously grown accustomed to being one of the best players in La Liga. This year, I think he's starting to finally show his age, which is 36. Iago Aspas has been dropped a few times by Rafa Benitez, and ultimately I don't think he's obviously as good as he was before, but he still can cause a threat. And all of these guys, I think Celta also have had a huge amount of refereeing decisions go against them, which has caused them to drop a lot of points. So it's been a torrid season for Celta, but it's just because everything's gone against them. And the best example is against Barcelona. You check it against the Barcelona game a couple of weeks ago, where they lost 2-1, and they got unfortunate. It was a penalty in my opinion. The one that I believe it was Unai Nunez who kicked Lamine Yamal, and Robert Lewandowski missed the first penalty. Then it got retaken and he scored, where Rafinha, I believe, encroached the penalty area. But they've just had a lot of refereeing decisions go against them, and it's cost them a lot of points this year. So what are your thoughts on the challenge of Celta as a whole? Because it's definitely not going to be an easy game. Celta Vigo is never an easy game. They always put up a fight, definitely. So what are your thoughts on Celta?
I think, of course, the game at a really good time because it's the game where we need a win. Of course, not like if we lose this game in future, this game is a disaster. But we need this game. We need to avoid the noise. We need to avoid the complications in La Liga. We need to have a big gap as possible to focus on two matches, to focus on two competitions at a time, and the big gap is essential. And we don't have points against Valencia, against Vallecano, against Atletico Madrid. We could have been maybe close to 15 points ahead of Barcelona. And that would have been surely the La Liga is done. And then maybe we could have made bigger changes for this game, and players would have had opportunities. But that's not the case, and now we have to play a really good, hard-working team. And the Bernabeu, of course, it's not ideal in these situations, but of course, it's the Santiago Bernabeu. Celta, despite being hard-working, of course, on the pitch of the Bernabeu, bigger pitch, quicker transitions, with the Bernabeu behind us, I believe that we can win this game. I don't expect it to like a 5-0 or 4-0 or even 3. If we get 3, I'll be happy with. Maybe I expect it to be like a 2-0, being able to a victory with some nice moments. But for me, I would just love to see us play with fluidity. Maybe I understand if there isn't much intensity sometimes, but I would like to see at least some fluidity. With Bellingham not there, it's going to be a bit difficult. So there's not a lot of pressure on guys like Toni Kroos to build Brahim to build, because I think if you look at it without Bellingham, I think Bellingham, when he traps deep for the ball, when he picks up the ball, he knows exactly what he can do with it, whether he's going to recycle possession or he's going to try forward with the ball. He's he rarely loses the ball, but he makes so much good decisions. And I think he can dictate the play, in my opinion. not as good as Toni Kroos, but when from in the attack until he can dictate the play, and when he's not there, it puts a lot of pressure on Toni Kroos, especially in the to be the only player to dictate the play. So at Celta Vigo, without Bellingham, it's going to be a really tougher clash. I'm not too sure if you remember the first leg, how tough that was when Kepa made his debut with all the long balls. Of course, all the high crosses, but of course, I have faith that the guys can do well. We have one of players back, except for the players who had ACL injuries and Bellingham due to suspension. So hopefully that's good enough for us to get something on today.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the reverse fixture, like you said, it was a really tough game. It was that game where Bellingham broke the deadlock late on in like the 70-something minute. I think if I was to guess, I would say 79th minute. So it was really late on.
Bellingham I think it was 82.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so Bellingham broke the deadlock late on with a header. And it was one of those games where we just couldn't break through Celta. Celta were really tough in that game, and they created chances of their own. They were really good in that game. They obviously early on it was Fran Beltran who had the shot on Kepa, and then Kepa kind of was disallowed, but it was a tough debut game for Kepa in that game, and I think Celta are gonna cause us problems like that, because Celta are not like the other teams that we've played in this recent stretch, like Rayo Vallecano, like Sevilla, who's going to pack out the box, make sure that we don't get any spaces in the box. It's not like one of those games. This is going to be a game where Celta will try and attack. Celta will try and score goals against us, and they do have the ability to score goals against us. In previous results against Celta, previous games against Celta have definitely caused us problems. They've definitely scored goals, and I think they're a lot more willing than other lower La Liga teams to attack us, and I think that's going to cause us a little bit of problems. If you look at what happened against Valencia last week, Valencia really pressed us with great intensity and caused us plenty of problems that way. Obviously forced the mistake on Carvajal, and so I think Celta could try and do something similar, try and win the ball in a similar way. So Celta are definitely going to cause us problems in that way, but that also allows us to progress the ball in the ways that we want to, and I think that's going to be a key thing in this game, because we're not going to be playing in and around the box. We'll have some more transition attacks to try and break Celta down in this game. So, what are your thoughts on this prospect of the playing style that we're going to be coming up against?
Yeah, I think of course sometimes you know what to expect. Of course, Celta was never this kind of team. They sometimes in the past they would play open attacking football sometimes, and it would have been easier to win these matches, because Madrid we really strive on open when it's an open game. Of course, it's easier for us when the game is open, and of course when the team defends, when they sit deep, when they play physical, sometimes it's a bit difficult. I think without Bellingham, it's going to be a bit more difficult, because I think I have maybe a weird theory I've been thinking about, that when your best player plays in the middle of the pitch, or one of your most important players play in the middle of the pitch, like in an attacking position, I think it's easier to win these type of matches. I think if you look at Barcelona with Messi, or you look at Manchester City with Kevin De Bruyne. I think when your best players in the center of the pitch, and they're so good at dictating the play or making those critical moments from the middle of the pitch, it's easier to win these kind of matches, easier to win open matches, it's easier to win any kind of matches, because Bellingham strives in any situation. Messi strives in any situation. Kevin De Bruyne strives in almost any situation. I think it's a bit more difficult, like when your best player is like Vinicius Jr., who's really good and maybe in the top five best players in the world, in my opinion. I think it's a bit more difficult, because it's easier to isolate them if you play a certain way. I think it's more difficult to isolate a guy like Bellingham with his skill set, a guy like Messi with his skill set, or even Kevin with his skill set. I think it's according to how you play. So I think this is, in my opinion, it's like without Bellingham, it's going to be tougher in these type of matches. Of course, Diaz is really good now, and of course, he can have a good impact, and we trust him to do well. But of course, without Bellingham, it's a bit more difficult to play those teams. I think that's why we head of the league. We should be lucky that Barcelona didn't get the opportunity to sign Messi, because it would have been entirely new story in La Liga had they managed to get Messi. So.
Yeah, I mean, bringing Messi in for Barcelona causes different problems. Not on the pitch, but in terms of financially, in terms of the breakout of Lamine Yamal, it wouldn't have probably happen if Messi was about. So, yeah, that's obviously a whole nother can of worms. You can't really open that right now, but yeah, this is gonna be a tough game against Celta. Let's get into our starting lineups. What we think should happen. Goalkeeping. Now, obviously, I think we both put Andrew Lunin, but I do have a question in terms of Thibaut Courtois, because Courtois' injuries, he's nearly back. He's recovered. Ancelotti's saying he's recovered. I think he is back in training right now. I think he's just getting back to that fitness level. But I think the main question is, when he's come back 100% fit, who starts? Andrew Lunin or Thibaut Courtois?
I think Thibaut Courtois starts. I think he starts. For me, Courtois is the number one. I think he starts. If he comes back at his best, if he isn't at his best, I think Lunin should start. For example, if Courtois comes back, the first game back is maybe Bilbao, tough game, Lunin should start. If he comes back and he's 100% fit and ready for the Classico, I think Lunin should start. It's according to the moment. If he starts immediately and he does well, then of course we know that he should maybe continue, because of course Thibaut Courtois and Lunin, it's not a comparison. Courtois is amazing, and it's not any dig at Lunin, because he is a really good goalkeeper. But comparing Thibaut Courtois to his best, maybe any goalkeeper, I think then maybe when you look at it, that Courtois is way ahead of most goalkeepers in the world. Well, maybe 99.999% of goalkeepers in the world, Courtois is higher than them. I think the only goalkeeper right now can maybe give Courtois competition before his injury. I maybe would have said Alisson in terms of his goalkeeping abilities. But for me, for the past 2 seasons, Courtois has been the best goalkeeper in the world. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Real Madrid fan. I'm saying that because I've seen this guy improve compared to his first season, how difficult his first season was and half of his second season. I've seen him learn to play against Ireland, seen him learn to maybe step out and clear danger. His shot stopping has gotten better. So I've seen him take those steps forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing how good he does, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Ancelotti would probably agree with you. I think Ancelotti will definitely play Courtois as soon as he's ready. The thing I have with it is Andrew Lunin has won his place back from Kepa, which after a difficult start, where I think a lot of keepers would have just been like, "Oh no, I've lost it. I can't get my place. I can't start over Courtois." And now Kepa is coming over me. A lot of keepers would have cowered in that position. A lot of keepers would have demanded an exit. So Lunin worked his way back into the starting lineup, and now he's undisputed starter. I think for me, especially with Courtois, because Courtois announced that he won't be playing in the Euros for Belgium. I don't know if that's going to change because of the fast and the fast recovery. But for me, I think this is Lunin's season to finish. And the way he's been playing, I don't think Courtois would be a massive step up. Maybe I'm wrong, because in the later stages of the season we're going to see Courtois, and we've seen Courtois make those big huge saves. But Lunin's played at that level this season so far, and he's been absolutely incredible. So I just think, for me, I think this is Lunin's season to finish, and I would definitely play Courtois in some games. I would definitely switch them about. But for me, the Champions League games, especially if Courtois is not 100% fit, I think for me, the Champions League games, those are for Lunin, and especially the big games in La Liga, those are for Lunin as well. So if you're going to play against a team like, I don't know, Osasuna, playing Osasuna next time, not Osasuna, but if you're playing against a team like Cadiz or, a lower La Liga team, I think Courtois plays that game. But if you're playing a big game, I think this is for Lunin. He's earned it, and I think I say all this. I think Ancelotti's going to put Courtois straight away back. So I don't know. Let's see what happens with the goalkeeper position.
But I also think that, for example, Lunin is a bit of a disadvantage when Courtois comes back. Because, for example, we know that if he makes a mistake, then in a big game, then of course, Courtois starts the next match. Courtois makes a mistake. So I think we know what he can do. We know how good he is. But if Lunin, similar to when Kappa made the mistake in the Copa against Atletico Madrid, I think we all knew it was over for him. So I think it's a situation where Lunin is going to be in a very difficult position because, of course, we know if you make a big mistake in a big game, with Courtois sitting back, I think it's going to be difficult. I think when you look at it, I'm not too sure if you remember when Kane was injured coming up to the Champions League final, Lucas actually scored a hat-trick to get them into the... I'm sure you would have remembered that against Ajax. Lucas scored a hat-trick. And of course, the next game, when we're looking forward to the Champions League final, Kane missed so many matches. And of course, he still started that game. He wasn't at his best, but he started that game. Pochettino was asked about it in the feature and said, if you have Harry Kane, you have to play him because you know what he's going to do. You know that he's your best player. So of course, Kane is a player that you can trust, because what he's done for you in the past, I think it's the same as Courtois, to be honest. I think no matter how good Lunin does, I think Ancelotti knows Thibaut Courtois. So I think it's that kind of situation. Of course, if let's say it's a Champions League final and Lunin is having a good season, you start Lunin and he makes a mistake, I think they're going to be out individuals saying, you should have started Courtois. But if let's say Courtois doesn't have a good game, they're going to say, he wasn't after he had an injury and he still started Courtois, he should have started Lunin. So I think that Ancelotti, I think it's his decision to make, in my opinion. Because it's a decision he has to make, and it's a decision that he would die for or go with. Like I said, I believe he's going to stick with Lunin at least for maybe a month when Courtois comes back, allow Courtois to get back to full fitness and give him the game here and there. But if we're still in the Champions League, I think let's say it's a semi-final, I think Courtois starts. And for me, I'm just going to say this really quickly. I believe that this should be Lunin's final season with Madrid. Because for me, I would like to see him play more matches. He just got called up for the national team. He's been in and out of the national team. I think he's their country's best goalkeeper. He's been their most nationally talented goalkeeper ever since he won that under-20 tournament. He was voted one of the best young goalkeepers in the world when he started, and finally he's getting the opportunity to take that step forward. Finally, he's doing so well, and he deserves it. And of course, if he gets an opportunity to play as a top team, hopefully there's a space for him to start and maintain his spot in the national team, maintain his spot as one of the best goalkeepers in the world. When people are saying that, maybe he should stay until Courtois retires or if his level drops, I think that's a bit difficult because goalkeepers take a bit longer. I think for the level to drop, if you look at Mane and Neuer, he had a bad injury and he came back and he's doing okay. He's not at his 100% best, but I can assure you that he's going to have Courtois is going to have a few more years in him despite the injury. So Lunin is in a difficult position unless, for example, Ancelotti promises at least 10 games per season, or the coach promises 10 games per season. Only then I think he should stay because I think he needs to keep taking steps forward and know when the opportunity is there. So I think this is his time. He can use this momentum. He can use this good press news every day. There's something good about him. He can use that, to maybe take a step forward sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Ukraine thing, right now he is the best Ukrainian goalkeeper. What I will say though, before, I think Ukraine had a pretty good keeper in Anatoly Trubin. I think he's been good for Shakhtar. We've seen him be really good for Shakhtar, and now he plays for Benfica. So yeah, right now Lunin is the best Ukrainian goalkeeper by far. I think he should be sold this summer. I think let's emphasize this. You have to put a buyback on him. I think he's the natural heir to Thibaut Courtois, in my opinion. He's been excellent, and I think I don't want to see someone like Mike Maignan or something like that be picked ahead ahead of Lunin in the future. I think Lunin is that guy, and I think he's.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. Well, you can continue, but I wouldn't say that because, for example, if you have the opportunity to sign like maybe the best goalkeeper in the world, sometimes you take that opportunity. That's just how football works. I would say if let's say you get the opportunity to sign Alisson, if let's say Courtois leaves, I would say no, because Alisson is in. I think Alisson is 30 now.
I think
So
yeah, they're similar ages.
So you have the opportunity to have Lunin who's 5 years younger, or Alisson, then you take Lunin. Of course, Alisson is better, but you take Lunin because then if you have the opportunity to sign Mike, who's way younger, who's still going to produce for a longer time period, then of course we have to be honest and say that Mike is better than Lunin.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's not a bad thing because Magnan is a really top goalkeeper. We have to be honest with that. But I think it's important to the situation. I'll take Lunin over so many goalkeepers in the world. I think he could be an exception, but if you look at it, I'm not going to spend 100 million on him because that's going to be his cost. The market is not the same. It's going to be 100 million, similar to Onana, well, way more than Onana, because he's better than Onana. There's going to be a high cost. I'm not going to spend a high cost on him. It doesn't make any sense. So then you keep Lunin and say, okay, it's better to keep Lunin. But if it's a good opportunity, good market opportunity, 10 million, 20 million, 1 year before his contract ends, and you look at it and say, yeah, this is a good opportunity. But for me, I think Lunin should be the guy to replace Courtois. It's going to save us a lot of money, especially if it's a cheap buyback. Then yeah, I think Lunin should be the guy, so I agree with you in that one. He'll be the first option for me. But if there's any better option, which is highly unlikely, I do believe that it's highly unlikely you're going to get a good market opportunity for a top goalkeeper who's better than Lunin. So then Lunin should, I think the pathway is there for him to continue and be Madrid's goalkeeper. I think he's going to be in a situation similar to Keylor Navas, when there's always going to be maybe a better goalkeeper, maybe more flashier goalkeeper. But for now, if he can cement himself as the best goalkeeper in the world, or one of the top 10 at least, then I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him. Because let's be honest, Keylor Navas wasn't considered one of the best goalkeepers in the world until he started being Madrid's number one.
I mean, what I will say about that, I think I'd rather spend 40 million on Lunin than spend 80 on Magnan. That's the only reason. I think, like you said, Magnan's a much better goalkeeper than, I wouldn't say much better, but I think he is better than Lunin. Especially, but I think also you have to consider the fact that Magnan's injury prone as a goalkeeper somehow. And I think in addition to that, I think, Lunin, if he reaches his potential, you're talking about one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And I think at the end of the day, if one of these guys, this is the situation we had with Vini and Mbappe maybe 2 years ago. I think it was like I think the question got asked: would you swap Mbappe for Vinicius? And I think I would have said no at the time, because at the end of the day, Mbappe's a better player than Vinicius, 100%. But he is our guy. He is our guy at the end of the day, and I think that's so valuable to have your guy on the left wing or in goal. To have your guy in goal, to have that emotional attachment, I think that's worth so much more. And I think that's why I would personally go for Lunin in goal ahead of Mike Magnan or someone like that. We use Mike Magnan, but whoever, it could be Alisson, 5 years younger Alisson, or whoever it could be, whoever.
Yeah, definitely. For example, in 2021, 2022, I think at the start of the season, Mane was the better player than Vinicius, but now Vinicius is a better player. It's a decision like that. Mane has dropped a lot, and Vinicius has kept going up. So it's a situation like that when you don't need to sign like a top player who is regarded, when you can just have faith in the player. So I totally understand, and I have to actually agree with you there in relation to that one. I think he's our guy because he's shown that he can step up. He has earned the trust of Ancelotti, which, of course, according to reports, he did not have. And, of course, it's clear that he didn't. Because, of course, I think Ancelotti was a bit unfair to him in past seasons when Courtois started the Copa matches. The Copa del Rey should be for the backup goalkeeper for me, at least until the semi-final or something like that. If you're playing Barcelona, I understand, but if you're playing Bilbao, that should be Lunin's game, in my opinion. You can't just give him one, like the first leg or the first 2 games of the Copa. Give him the entire tournament. many top teams do it. Liverpool do it with Keller. Of course,
Man
Chelsea did
City.
it with Kepa. Yeah, Man City does it. Barcelona did it with Valdes and Pinto. So of course, give him the cup. Yeah, he's shown that he can at least be good enough for these kind of matches. Of course, he's going to play like big matches soon if Courtois isn't at his best. I would have loved for him to play the quarter. I would love for him to play the quarterfinal. I'd love to see how he does against maybe a Man City, Arsenal, whoever we play. I'd love to see how he does, being compared to one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Because, for example, in the past when they play teams like Bayern Munich, you will see these guys doing the combined 11s. It's always going to be Madrid's goalkeeper, Kylian Navas, was never picked in these combined 11s, whether it was against Buffon, against Neuer, against most top goalkeepers, he was never picked. And he, of course, was the best goalkeeper. He was the best goalkeeper of the match. He outperformed them. So I think I want him to be in that same position when all these guys making their combined 11, so they're going to pick Alisson. They're going to pick the better goalkeeper. But then Lunin would outperform them, and of course that would be good for him.
Yeah, so that's enough Lunin talk because well, no doubt when Courtois comes back we'll be talking about that a little bit more. So let's move on to the right back. Now I've gone for Lucas Vazquez here because personally I think Lucas Vazquez has been excellent when he's been called upon this season so far. I think he's, apart from his crossing's definitely dropped for a couple of years now. His crossing has been atrocious ever since the final Zidane season. So, but I think Lucas Vazquez starts here, and also I need to ask you one thing because I answered this last week when I was on my own. I said, are you concerned with Dani Carvajal over the last few games because he's looked like that version of Dani Carvajal which we just do not want to go back to, the one where he just makes stupid mistakes. He just looks completely burnt out against quicker wingers, and he doesn't look good whatsoever. So what are your thoughts on the Dani Carvajal performances over the last few games?
I won't say that I'm concerned about it because, of course, when you look at it and you understand a bit, you'd have to see that. Fede Valverde, I would say didn't maybe cover him as much because of the system. I think when Valverde plays ahead of him, it's easier for him to be at his best. Without him, then it's going to be a bit difficult. I don't mean that in a negative way that he needs Valverde, but a lot of players have a better game when there's a particular player with them. Whether it's Haaland who needs Kevin De Bruyne more than he should. Of course, Ronaldo needed Benzema a bit in the number 9 position to play better. It happens, at an older age. Carvajal, yes, Valverde has been a big part of his season. So I think coming up to these crunch matches when Carvajal gets a rest of the match and comes back, I think with Valverde ahead of him on these big Champions League nights, I think you're going to see the best of him. Like I said, he's having a wonderful season. I still think we need a full back though, a right back. I still think it would be stupid of us not to sign one. But let's be honest, Carvajal last season had some good Champions League nights, even though he wasn't at his best.
Yeah, I think you've just got to trust him at this point. But I would go for Lucas Vazquez in this game. I think it would be a nice game for Lucas Vazquez to start. And yeah, like I said, I think he deserves a contract. I think he's earned it this year. He deserves definitely a 1-year renewal. And yeah, I think he's been really good. One of the best backup right backs so far this season. And I think, yeah, he's just provided something different from Dani Carvajal. He hasn't even looked at liability on the defense this year. He's been pretty solid. And yeah, I'm just satisfied with how Lucas Vazquez is playing overall this season. So yeah, let's move on to the centre backs. I mean, in terms of the centre-backs, I will talk about Militao another time because it looks like Militao's return is getting nearer and nearer. I think, the date set by Ancelotti, was it the Mallorca game? I think it was the Mallorca game, maybe the Athletic Club game. But he's getting very close. So we'll talk about that more when it comes round. But for this game, I think Nacho and Rudiger, they're gonna have a handful to deal with. I spoke about Strand Larsen earlier, and obviously Iago Aspas is obviously the main man. What are your centre back, Yoro?
Yeah, it's not. I think it picks itself. Let's be honest. We don't have any other options, and of course, I would like to see Tchouaméni in midfield because I think a big part when Nacho is poor has been without Tchouaméni in midfield, but because I don't know, Nacho has been really terrible this season, whether with Tchouaméni in midfield or not. So I'm not even going to say that. Of course, with Tchouaméni in midfield, it makes our defense too much. It makes it likely to look good for our defense. But in my opinion, this is a controversial thing. I think Tchouaméni has had an amazing season.
That's not controversial.
Our best 11 has been Tchouaméni has been a centre back this season. Tchouaméni is better. Then you have Toni Kroos and Valverde in midfield with Camavinga, and then of course Bellingham as well. I think Nacho has been really bad this season. I can't wait for Militao to come back. It's a completely different situation to the Lunin Courtois topic. Militao needs to come back. I think Tchouaméni is way better than Nacho this season. I have no idea what's going on, whether it's age or whether he's just having a bad time. But he's not having the best of season, but we don't have a choice but to blame along with Tony, because so that says it all. So I think if Militao comes back and is at his best, Militao should play. And of course, even if the Champions League, I think Tchouaméni should be starting over at centre back. Gives us the opportunity to play Camavinga, to start Camavinga, but at the same time, I think Ancelotti knows he needs Camavinga off the bench. So it's a complicated situation. It's a debatable situation.
Yeah, we've talked about this many times. I think Nacho, for me, I think it is a bit to do with the age. I think the age has definitely caused a little bit of an issue. I think the fact is he is, 34, 35? I think. Yeah, I think that's obviously played a huge factor in it. I think he's lost a step. I don't know what's happened with his mental game. I think he's just dropped it in that regard. But yeah, hopefully when Militao comes back, he steps it back up as the backup. I think that's what Nacho loves to do. But at this point, I think it is definitely a question over whether we renew him or not. And speaking on the topic of centre backs, let's talk about Leny Yoro, because that's been the main headline in terms of transfer news over the last week. And it looks like Leny Yoro wants to come to Real Madrid, provided that we make a decision for him. Now, let me just give you the background. Leny Yoro, 18 years old, plays for Lille in France. Centre back, he's been absolutely incredible this season. He's formed a centre back partnership with Oumar Diakite. And them two together, they've complemented each other really well. He's really good interceptions. He's basically a young version of Rafa Varane. It's literally, I just see the exact same things in a young version of Rafa Varane in Leny Yoro. Maybe it's a bit slower because Rafa Varane when he was young was so quick. But I think he's really good on the ball. Amazing on the ball, actually. He's genuinely amazing on the ball. His interceptions are really good. Maybe he's not as aggressive as the other centre back. Diakite loves to be aggressive, but that obviously complements Militao really nicely, and I think that's where I think he really fits in well with this Real Madrid team. And obviously we've got a French squad in large parts. I think he fits in really nicely with Militao for the future, and I think that's where you consider this. So in terms of Leny Yoro, he's got 1 year left in the contract, past this summer, so his contract expires in 2025. And yeah, I think that should mean that his price is close to 30 million, similar as Camavinga. This is a very similar situation to Camavinga. Both of them put in masterclass against PSG, and yeah, I think this is a really, really good opportunity for us to sign a long-term partner to Eder Militao. I think this is this is a really good opportunity for us. So what are your thoughts on Leny Yoro and whether we should sign him this summer?
Yeah, it's a good opportunity if I'm being honest. So I have to admit it's a good opportunity, but I believe that the best time should have been in January. If I'm being honest, even though maybe spend 20 million more, the best time would have been January. I'm not saying that we should have done it because I'm not the guy working in accounting. I'm not the guy who's planning the squad. So of course, I'm just saying 20 million more might be, of course, to sign him then. But now would have been the time when he actually gets to show what he can do and start matches and say, you know what, I deserve to start over some of these guys. So I think it's a good opportunity for him. I think it's also going to be better for him with Nacho leaves because, well, if Nacho stays, there's a lot of loyalty towards him from Ancelotti. And of course it's going to hinder some minutes for him. I think next season is going to be a bit. At the start of the season, he's going to get his opportunity. It's going to be only Tony and Militao ahead of him because he's a better player than Nacho, of course. But when Arda comes back, maybe it might complicate his game time a bit. Hopefully, like Rafael, of course, he didn't expect to play that amount of matches, but he still got the opportunity to. That was a good opportunity for Bern and Jose, who trusted him and also fell out of the Amos that maybe was fast. So I think next season it will be a bit difficult for him to get game time, but I think if he follows the same trajectory as Rafael, things is going to be good for him. I think if you also look at it this way, I think we're going to have 3 top centre backs next year. Alaba, Militao, Vegas. I don't think there's the big need to sign a centre back. I think Rafa Marin is doing well. It's not like a necessity, but if you have the opportunity to upgrade the position or sign a player who can contribute for the next 10 years, then that's good. I'm not too sure what's going on with Antonio Silva, why his name isn't there mentioning as one of the players to come in. I'm not too sure exactly why he's not considered. A few months ago, I believe that he was the club's sub options. I'm not too sure exactly why he's not considered. Maybe you might have information as to what's going on with him.
I mean, in terms of Antonio Silva, he hasn't improved since last year. That's the bare bones of it. He's been good. Like last year, he's obviously starting for Benfica and he has been good, but he hasn't been as good. A couple of days ago, it was last week. They played Porto, conceded 5, and a lot of those goals were really preventable in terms of the defensive structure. And I think Antonio Silva overall just hasn't improved since last year. I think Gonçalo Inácio has been better than him this year. I think Gonçalo Inácio's part of his three in terms of Ousmane Diomande. He's been better than Antonio Silva this year as well. And it just looks like if you're going to pay 80 million for a centre-back, he better improve every year. And it just hasn't happened with Antonio Silva. So I just think that's been the main problem. So yeah, that's the main reason why Antonio Silva hasn't been considered over the last few weeks. So yeah. In terms of the left back for this game, I'm going to personally go for Fran Garcia. I think this is a good game for him to impress. So what are your thoughts on the left back situation?
Yeah, well, I've always been in favor of Garcia over Mendy in these matches at the Bernabeu, in my opinion, because Garcia can stretch the pitch. He has energy and he can do well. I think Mendy's best performances, weirdly enough, has been like when we're not moving forward. I think for me, this is Garcia's opportunity. And I also believe that on a later topic, we should sell Mendy in the summer if we sell Davies over Garcia. I think if you sell Mendy, you have Camavinga who can offer the back position if Davies is not there, and with Garcia being a natural backup. When people are saying, oh yeah, well, the defense for Mendy, he can defend the best defensive left back in the world. In my opinion, he's one of the best defensive left.
You cut out there.
What's that?
You cut out for the last 10 seconds.
I do apologize, but I think the last thing you may have to it was that if we sell Mendy, Camavinga can be the guy who can play left back and give Ancelotti the stability that he wants from the position. But yeah, so I'm just saying, I'm not being disrespectful or anything to Mendy, but I'm just saying in terms of squad building, if you're looking to build a team for the next 5 years, because I think it should always be the next 5 years, not 10 years. You don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, but for the next 5 years, Many is not going to be a star, a top player in the next 5 years, or 3 years, or 4 years. So you look at the other options. It's Garcia or Miguel for me. If you can't sign Bibi, it's Garcia, and Miguel should be my left backs. Because Miguel gives you so much more. Miguel can go into midfield and play. I think in one of the reports, it just stated that how that Girona system allows Miguel to be at his best, and I'm sure he knows that, but he also recognizes that he has taken a step forward. I think Miguel should still be the guy, though, regardless, because of what he can do on the ball and how upgraded he is. So that's good for me. Mendy's good, but he's not good like Miguel.
What I will say about Miguel is I don't know if it's... The thing is with Fran Garcia, I think he provides us with something that's unique, which is just this blistering pace, just the ability to put a cross in. I think Miguel Gutierrez is a very good left back, but I don't think he provides us with that specialised need, and that's a little bit of a problem when he's coming up against Alphonso Davies, who's one of the best left backs in the world. When he comes up against Ferland Mendy, when he's one of the best defensive players in the world. So it's just that's where I think Miguel Gutierrez will struggle a little bit, and I just don't know if he's the right guy to bring in. If he was a right back, I would be saying bring him in immediately, but it's obviously not the situation. So it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. In terms of the midfield four, I'm gonna go for Tchouaméni, a defensive midfield. I'm gonna go Camavinga left centre mid. I'm gonna drop Fede for this game. I think Fede's looked really tired over the last few games, so I think this is a game to rest Fede. And then I'm gonna go for Modric on the right, and then I'm gonna go for Brahim Diaz / Arda Güler through the middle. I think this is the game for Arda Güler if he's gonna ever play one. I think the loan move is being increasingly discussed. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I just don't know if he's going to get the minutes required. But this is a game for him. Celta are not physical. They're not going to go bashing into tackles, trying to take his legs out. Celta are going to do what's necessary, but they're not going to just completely destroy his legs. I think this is the game for Arda Güler, playing in 17th place, and he can definitely break the deadlock. He can be the difference. Imagine what difference he can make. If this is the guy that brings us the La Liga title. I'm being dead serious. He could make that sort of impact. Completely change our performances over the last few games. I think this could be a turning point. If we try Arda Güler, he's not even trying, giving him a go. Like, what's the worst that could happen as an attacking midfielder? He barely touches the ball and then you take him off at half time. But that's the worst that could happen. He's not going to make a mistake and then 2 mistakes leading to goal. That's realistically not going to happen. So I just don't understand Carlo Ancelotti's hesitance to even give him a go. Like, that's where I'm just like, especially when you're struggling for ideas, when you're struggling to create chances, give him a go. What's the worst that can happen? He's clearly showed that he's got the talent, the ability on the ball to do it. Give him a go. What's the worst that could happen? So, what are your thoughts on that midfield four?
Yeah, I think I understand with the Fede situation. I think, he needs to be back at his best for the future games. We can't make the same mistake that we did against Almeria when we were 2-0 down with a lack of intensity. You need to play the guys who are going to give you effort. So, of course, Rodrigo, he's going to come in with a lot of fire because he was on the bench and he wants to score, he wants to show what he can do. Rodrigo Diaz is going to be fresh. He didn't play against Leipzig. He is reliable. Of course, Ceballos would always give you energy. Modric would give you energy as well. And then, of course, Tchouaméni kind of thing that they're going to give you energy. So I think it's any combination for me would work because I believe our midfield is really interchangeable. So once we don't have the repeat of intensity for me, like we did last month, I think I'm fine with whoever plays in midfield. Of course, except for the players who maybe need a bit of a rest.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the front two, Vini, I think for me it would be Vini and Rodrigo for this game. Vini's been excellent over these last few games. He's really stepped it up, and he started scoring the goals that have been pivotal for us to win, draw, whatever, get the results that I needed. Rodrigo, I said last week, he did concern me a little bit, his performances, but I think the midweek performance was encouraging. He was definitely our best player in attack. Definitely brought on a lot more. Just to close off this podcast for this week, in terms of the game midweek against Leipzig, how concerned were you? Because that was diabolical. To be totally honest, that was totally diabolical. The lack of control with the 5 midfielders really concerned me. The fact that we're shipping so many chances, that concerned me. The fact we couldn't create anything, that concerned me. Like, it was just the only reason we're through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League is because of Lois Openda not being able to score. If not, then Leipzig could have put 3 or 4. If you had switched Lois Openda for, I don't even know, whoever you want, you could switch him for, let's just say, for argument's sake, let's put Harry Kane in there. If you put Harry Kane in there, we would be out of the Champions League, no doubt. And that was really, really discouraging for me to see how bad we were. You could tell that we shouldn't have put 5 midfielders, but the fact that we couldn't even control the pitch with the 5 midfielders really did concern me, and I was really, really concerned after that game. So, what are your thoughts on the Leipzig game?
Honestly, if I'm being honest, I expected performances like these, I'm sure, this season, but I think this one was really bad. I think I wasn't concerned because it's not something I'm unused to with this team sometimes, to be honest. I'm used to these type of performances. I think when you support Madrid under Ancelotti, these performances will happen. It happened in the Camp Nou against the winner against Barcelona when we get spanked 4-0. It happened against City last year, and then of course there's a game and they play so well. So it's a bit difficult to tell, but in these type of matches, I think we expected. So I think you're less disappointed. You just maybe say on to the next one. I hope it doesn't happen against a bigger team, because it happened against Barcelona 4-0 and we went on to win the Champions League. I'm not saying that that's definitely going to happen, or it's the same situation, but I'm saying that I'm kind of used to something like this happening, honestly. I know that's not a good thing. Let's be honest, it's not a good thing, but it's just something that we are used to as Madrid fans, if I'm being honest. So I wasn't deeply concerned. Of course, it's a bit frustrating to look at when you look over a game, when you watch over a match, because I didn't see the game directly. But when I looked at the game over, I was a bit disappointed, if I'm being honest. But I wasn't concerned because it's something that, how do I say it? It's something that you maybe expect to happen to Real Madrid a few times in the season. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like you said, we've seen this a lot of times. We've seen a lot of bad performances. But I just think how naive Ancelotti was going into this match. I just think playing 5 midfielders was just never the good idea. It was never a good idea. And if you wanted a little bit more energy, you could have put on Brahima from the start instead of Rodrigo. But I just didn't understand it. No one understood it, but I said, fine, just give it a chance. But it just did not. It did not work whatsoever. And we're lucky. We're very, very lucky. I think the team would have responded if Leipzig had scored early, but you never know, because the volume of chances created by Leipzig, the quality of chances created by Leipzig, they should have gone through. And fair play to Leipzig, they played damn good. They deserved to go through in this tie, but they didn't. That was due to their finishing. So, that is it for today. Have you got anything else to say on the Celta game or on the Leipzig game?
No, I think if you look at the of course the match day post from today, of course, if you look at it, I specifically said that we need to win this game to not overcomplicate the title race and avoid letting Barcelona back into this title. 5 points isn't a lot, so 8 points is a bit higher. It's a bit better. 8 points is a bit better. So I think we need to win these matches. I understood the last few games, it was tough matches. Atletico Madrid, Valencia, tough matches. But I think that these are games at home at the Bernabeu that you have to win. We are unbeaten, that's good. Since in the league, since the Atletico Madrid game in September, we are unbeaten, that's a good thing. But we still have to win these type of matches. Without Bellingham, it's going to be a bit more difficult, but gives them the opportunity to get back to 100%.
Yeah, we don't want any complications before El Clasico. We don't want a situation where if Barcelona win this game in El Clasico, if Barcelona win El Clasico, they're back in the title race. We don't want that. We just let's put them behind before El Clasico, so that there is no pressure going into that match apart from it being El Clasico. So, yeah, that is it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.